Steve Dotto here. How the heck are you this fine day? Me? On a scale of 1 to 10, I'm 14 or 15. The reason is we did it. We hit a milestone last week. We hit 50,000 subscribers on our channel, which is exactly halfway to what my goal was for this year. So if I look at my yearly goals, I'm falling way short. But let's celebrate the success that we're having, shall we? We started the year out at about 10,000 subscribers, stated a goal, tried to hit 100,000 subscribers. That wasn't practical, but we've done this all pretty much organically without spending money on the channel, grown more than 2 times, and there are lots of lessons that we've learned in the first half of our journey to 100,000 subscribers. So in this, I think, 34th installment of my vlog on growing your YouTube channel to 100,000 subscribers, let's take a look at the things that I've learned in the first half of our journey, shall we? All right, 50,000 subscribers. It's a big number, but it's just a number. What's important is every single one of those subscribers is a potential viewer on the channel, and let's talk about what I've learned about servicing that audience, about becoming a conduit for knowledge and information to an audience and to a community. And when I think back on where I was a year ago to what I've learned in the last year, I think one of the things that I've grown the most, that I've grown to appreciate the most, is how YouTube is a social network. And the audience that I'm growing are not fans, they're not subscribers, but they're a community. And I think that's because one thing that I've done since day one is I have made sure that I spend time in conversation with that community. Now, I'm not saying every YouTube content creator is going to do this, but if you do want to grow a community as opposed to just an audience, I think that this is something that you have to consider doing. So my routine almost every day, not every day, but almost every day, certainly every day that I kind of have a normal schedule, is in the morning after I've kind of got things started, got coffee in my lap, and I'm ready to get going, is I head into the YouTube channel and I go into community. And I've done this to the detriment of some of my other social channels. I don't spend as much time in Facebook as I used to. I spend way less time in Twitter, much to the chagrin of many of my social media friends. But because of YouTube's Google Plus integration and the fact that I'm having people that are watching my videos, commenting and asking me questions, and it does take me quite a bit of time to go through this space, I've decided that this is the best use of my time in social media, is talking to our audience, to the community in YouTube. Now, so this is a strategic decision you're going to have to make, because at some point you're not going to have time to do everything in all mediums, or at least I'm certainly not going to. So you have to choose which ones you're wanting to spend time in, and you're going to have to spend less time in some of the other social platforms. Now, the YouTube integration with Google Plus is not as clean as one would like, because I've discovered as I go through that things slip through the cracks, and I don't always understand exactly what's happening with Google Plus as I go along. Now, that might be my shortcoming, but I think, to be honest, it's a little bit more has to do with Google Plus just being a little bit confusing about how it all fits together with everything else, and YouTube and Google Plus kind of inventing it as they go. But of course, being YouTube content creators, we're no strangers to inventing it as we go, so it's not like we can criticize Google for doing something that we do so much, is it? No, I think we better just give them a pass on that. So every morning, I spend time going through all of the comments, and then it's going to be up to you to decide at what threshold and at what level you want to comment and engage with your audience. But I would say that as long as you are genuine with your involvement, and you're actually genuinely having comments and having conversations, that you're probably off on the right foot. Now, what I've been trying to do is comment back on every single comment that has been posted. As we hit this mark, this number of subscribers, it's getting more difficult. It's starting to take more time, and I'm starting to recognize that things like the thanks that I get here, and I appreciate them, but for the most part, I'm just going to give them thumbs up. I have commented in the past on each one, but by giving them a thumbs up, I'm also giving them a Google Plus, and Cranstein in this particular case will realize, or Krasenstein will realize if they look back that I've given it a thumbs up, I've given it a Google Plus, so I hope that they recognize the fact that I've read it and appreciated the comment. If you write a little bit more, I then will respond as best I can. Some questions just don't have answers for. There's not much we can do, but for the most part, if I have an answer or if I have an idea in a way to comment back, I do on each and every comment. And what's happening is those comments are turning into short conversations, and I'm getting almost as much back as I'm putting into it at this point here. So one of the nice things that's happened with the channel's growth and the business side of YouTube, and remember the whole goal behind this vlog and my experiment here on YouTube is figuring out if YouTube can be the basis for a business. So I'm always looking for revenue opportunities coming out of YouTube. And by having conversations with my audience, they have told me, or my community is what I should be calling you, with conversations with my community, reading between the lines, you've told me what you want as far as products that you're interested in buying from me, what you're willing to spend money on. And as I was posting videos on an ongoing basis, I noticed that any YouTube videos that I was posting on Evernote were getting far more traction, far more engagement, far more interest. So when I decided on adding another revenue leg kind of in my whole business here, Evernote, creating a course on Evernote was the first place that I turned, and it was quite successful. I'll talk about that in a few moments, but that grew out of this sense of engagement and community that I have in the channel, and I enjoy it. I kind of feel a real sense of ownership over the channel, and I just feel that the amount of time that I've spent in conversation here, in building it into a community, has turned it into a really interesting place. It's turned it into a place that people are obviously finding value in. I'm seeing the same people posting multiple times, and I'm getting really nice feedback. So it's a two-way street. But it's one that you have to consider getting on, I think, if you really want to grow your channel. Certainly, if you are a personality that wants to be a part of the channel and you're not just an entertainment or a rebroadcaster of things or something like that. But for the style of community growing of YouTube that I've chosen to do, it's important. And once again, I will reiterate, you're probably going to do so at the expense of some other social networks. For me, Twitter is the one that suffered the most, Facebook a little bit. So you're going to have to ultimately at some point pick and choose. One of the other things that, as I've been thinking about, what's happened with the channel is the style of video that I've produced has changed slightly, but more, I've gotten more comfortable with my voice in each of the videos that I produce. My kind of quirky sense of humor, a little self-deprecating at times, a little curmudgeonly, or a lot curmudgeonly at times. So I've let my personality come through, and it seems to be, again, creating some engagement with the audience. People are enjoying the video. They're finding them to be engaging as well as informative. And I think that is tremendously important. And one of the things that I noticed one of the things that I decided to do at the beginning, probably it'll sound like it's because it was a brilliant idea as far as composition and as far as creating a brand, but it was more out of laziness, is I let little mistakes go. I don't mind having little mistakes in my video, and it's never bothered me. I've never watched them again and said, oh, geez, I really should have redone that. If I feel that way, I do redo it. But for the most part, I've allowed little things to happen. And for this kind of quickly consumable information that has a little bit of shelf life, but not a tremendous amount of shelf life, I always thought it was good enough. Now, I didn't want it to be just good enough from the perspective of taking shortcuts. I don't want you to consider that for your video. But I think that if we were musicians, we would look at ourselves as jazz musicians rather than classical musicians. We're improvising as we go, and every time you improvise, you hit the odd sour note. But jazz musicians don't shrink, pull back, and start over again when they hit a sour note. They just keep on going, and they recognize that the narrative that they're creating, that the fullness of the piece will carry the day, and that one sour note or that one little mistake in the middle, it really isn't a reason to stop. It's just to continue moving through. And here's the most important thing I think content creators have to recognize. And this carries forward for if you're doing live presentations, if you're doing webinars, if you're doing videos. If you have a mistake that you decide is okay to continue on through, just continue on through it. Don't be embarrassed by it. Don't be concerned with it. The audience doesn't get concerned unless you show concern. If you show fear, if you show the fact that, oh, geez, I just really screwed that up, I wonder what I should do, maybe I'll keep going, well, then they feel uneasy about it, and it becomes an issue. But if you make a mistake and then you just keep on going and you plunge through it and you don't let it act like it bothers you at all, because it hasn't bothered you at all, hopefully, then it won't bother the audience at all. So think about, as you're creating your video, not in all cases, but in a lot of cases, if you can, think about it as jazz rather than classical. The odd little mistake, the odd little misnote here, the odd little thing that you tried to go down that avenue and it didn't quite work, that's okay. That's okay. We can just keep on going and keep moving in the right direction. Now let's take a step back and talk a little bit about the business of the channel and the things that I've learned about the business of the channel, because the goal of this series is to figure out if we do have a business here on YouTube, if YouTube can be the basis for a business. And increasingly, I believe that it is. I have a lot of confidence that it is. And so as far as revenue into my business directly related to YouTube, after a little bit over a year into it, we started really on this journey in September of 2013. So we're a year and 2 months down the road. If you think about any small business starting up, a year and 2 months is, it's usually that's the painful time. It's in cash flow might be an issue and you're not really making money in that period of time. You're still learning and making mistakes, and I think we'll be making mistakes for some time to come. But let's talk about what the real revenue is that I've recognized. And again, I'm a solopreneur here. I've done this all by myself. I haven't had anybody else really doing any piece of the puzzle. So this is the real deal. As if you started out by yourself and built it up and built something that mirrored the sort of channel that I've built. So as far as the revenue pillars that I've looked at, I've got advertising revenue from YouTube itself. I've got patronage. I've got our Patreon supporters who are supporting the channel as a sense of community, which is turning out to be far better than I ever imagined. We've got online courses. So, developing digital products. And I've really only started that a year into the process. So for the first year, for the most part, I did have a couple of courses, but I didn't really hit my stride with the courses. Instead, I was really concentrating most on community building, finding my voice, figuring out how to make videos, how to increase the number of views on videos, increase the number of subscribers, increase the traction, and create a footprint in the online world. I concentrate on that, but now I'm trying to sell digital products. So those are the three kind of main pillars of revenue that I currently have and that I'm working with. And so each of them is actually doing pretty well, I would say. In hard dollars, no one of them is probably enough to support me, but in AdSense revenue, which we're not supposed to share. We're not supposed to share how we get to the numbers, but we're allowed to share the gross numbers. So we're in early December now. So last month in November, we brought in $1,700 in AdSense revenue based on the size of our audience. We had 50,000 subscribers. That's not bad. I think it might be a little bit higher than the average YouTube content creator can expect, because I suspect that my cost per view is a little bit higher just from what I've read online, but you can extrapolate that for what you want. So, even if it was half of that, it's still pretty reasonable money. It's still enough money to help pay for your services, to help pay for, it's at even $800 or $900 a month with 50,000 subscribers. You start to recognize that AdSense, ad revenue on YouTube is a potential that can actually make a bit of a difference in your business. Now, having said, certainly if you're a solopreneur like me, not if you've got 15 people working for you, it's a whole different story, right? But one thing that we have to recognize always when we talk about AdSense revenue is we are not in control in any way, shape, or form of how it continues, because the numbers, how Google is or how AdSense is doing with selling advertising, the perceived value of ads in the online world, we have no control over any of those things. And I've seen even in this 1 year where my AdSense revenue is climbing, and then it plummeted down precipitously, like down to a third of the revenue in the course of 2 months. And then it took another 2 or 3 months to climb up. So there was a 5-month period from a point that I hit a peak till I climbed back to that level, which was a huge impact on revenue. Now, at the dollars that we're talking about right now, that's not the end of the world. If it is, you're in a very precarious financial situation. But if we increase our numbers by 10 times, and we start talking about $17,000 of revenue that you're getting, and all of a sudden that plunges down to a third, and you're suddenly looking at $3,000, and that $17,000 is actually supporting employees and other people behind, AdSense revenue becomes very precarious indeed. So it's never going to be the revenue source that I count on. I am always going to look at AdSense revenue as a bonus and something which is always at risk because I have so little control over so many of the factors engaged with it. But I'm still happy to see the numbers come in. So that's AdSense revenue. Far more in my wheelhouse of what I can and can't control is the Patreon revenue that we're getting. Now, Patreon is the site that where people come and support you by basically donating money, by offering patronage to your channel in order to see that you continue to see that you are able to continue to produce content. And the story that I tell my patrons, what I offer my patrons is, if you come and help me pay for the channel, then I don't have to spend a lot of time worrying about advertising revenue and bringing sponsors on. Instead, I can spend that energy and that time creating more content. And for that, we will give you some perks. We will give you some bonuses. So it's very similar to Kickstarter, except we're not dealing on a single project. Instead, we're dealing in ongoing content. And this is popular for people like me that create vlogs or that create ongoing video content. Incredibly popular with musicians and artists, people who write books, those sorts of things. Where the patronage models that we would have seen back in the Renaissance, where people supported the artists for future work to ensure that they could create future great work rather than paying them for the work that they've created. That model and that level of trust and that level of a relationship is what comes out of Patreon. Now, we've seen some nice growth in Patreon in our channel in the last couple of months, and that's primarily because I'm figuring out the perk program. I'm figuring out what I can offer patrons as perks that really makes sense. And the thing that happened before was people were giving early access to my videos and things like that. But once I started to develop the digital products, my courses, and I was able to say to patrons, at the $10 level, you get free access to my course, which means it only costs you $10 to get access to it if you're just a patron for 1 month. But over the course of the year, it's about the same as if you were to buy the course. But you get the warm and fuzzy and you get the nice feeling of actually supporting ongoing content, more access to me. I respond very, very quickly to anybody that posts questions in Patreon, etc. So it just seemed to suddenly click into place when I started to offer the courses as perks. And that's something that I'm going to take a good hard look at as we move into 2015. I'm going to tweak the system a little bit, but I'm thrilled with how Patreon is coming together. And I love the sense of community that I feel from it. It's an even more intimate sense of community than I feel with the YouTube channel, which is still a pretty good sense of community. And one definitely folds into the other. But now Patreon, unlike AdSense revenue, it is passive income to a certain extent, but it's something that I feel far more in control of because it's a small, defined group that we can reach out and touch and we can offer new things to. And I just feel a lot more in control of that, of the business process and where the value can lie, because I determine what additional value I give the patrons, not the patrons having to determine, like in advertising revenue, what their money is worth being spent. So this is a step up as far as reliability, and I'm happy with how the Patreon side grew. And I think for many YouTube content creators, that Patreon is going to be a really nice, viable option. Still waiting to see what YouTube is going to produce. They're talking about producing the same kind of options of subscription type memberships, but they haven't really pushed it out, or at least I haven't seen it where they've pushed it out that it makes me think twice about the fact that YouTube might have something that would make me switch from Patreon for this particular service. The third leg of revenue that has come to the channel is, of course, these digital products that I've started selling. Now, I've got two main courses that we're selling right now, one on Evernote and another one on Task Apps. And this is the landing page for that you can see here, and they are selling quite well. And now what I'm learning to do is I'm learning new ways of promoting them to audiences that haven't seen them. Almost everybody that's a part of my community has now seen these courses or has been offered them, or know that they're available. So now I'm having to find fresh markets and fresh eyeballs to see them. But that's in part of the ongoing process of building the channel as well, is bringing new people in. And when new people come in, a certain percentage of them might be interested in the course. The actual revenue from the course from these courses exceeds anything that I've gotten from the other properties that I have, because just the bottom line is because you can make fairly large sales. You know, if you put on a webinar that you have 200 people out to and you close 10%, that's 20 sales. That's, in my model here, that's $2,000 of revenue that comes in very quickly and in quite a controlled manner, because you can, you know, if you spend the effort of putting on the webinar, you know that a certain percentage of people are going to buy. And so it's a nice internet, a classic internet marketing model, but it's definitely growing out of the YouTube channel. So between those three pillars of revenue, I'm starting to see that this year, this coming year, is just a year and a half now into the business venture, that I have a real business. I don't have fear now, which I did, to be honest with you, like for the first, 9-10 months that I was doing this. I said, am I really ever going to be able to turn this into a business that I can make money on? And now I can see that I can indeed. And here is the final part of our kind of look at growing to 50,000 subscribers. What we've hit there is I've seen that the revenue models are starting to work, and hopefully, you'll determine whether or not the numbers that I've shared with you start to make sense if you want to make the kind of investment and know that it might take you a year to reach this kind of level. But the last part is, now that I'm reaching this level, I'm recognizing that the business systems and the information systems that I have that tell me about the activities of my community have to be improved. And I posted a few weeks ago that I've outgrown Aweber, which is my email software that sends out my newsletters, and that I was going to make a shift, and I was going to buy a more advanced CRM, or customer relationship management package, that's more designed for information marketers. And I've made that decision, and I'm just in the early stages now of setting up my actual software. Now, I chose Infusionsoft as the tool that I purchased. It was very close between Infusionsoft and Ontraport, and to be honest, I don't know which one is better. And if you ask me 10 years from now, I won't know which one is better, because I'll never know just how good Ontraport could have been, because I'll be spending all my energy in Infusionsoft. But having said that, I believe that they are pretty much of a muchness, that it's going to be more reliant on the energy and the creativity and how I use the tool that's going to determine my success than the tool itself. A carpenter with a 14-ounce hammer and a carpenter with a 16-ounce hammer, one might be better, but if you use it your whole career, you never know that one would be better. You just know that you make good buildings. That's what I'm hoping to do, is I'm hoping to take this tool and apply it and learn to make it work for me. So the key that Infusionsoft is going to give me is it's going to give me intelligence of what activities I do which actually generate revenue downstream. Now, I already know which activities give me happiness. I know what type of videos I post that you reply to that make me feel happy and that I enjoy publishing. Those aren't necessarily the ones that are always going to make my business advance. Now, I'll continue to make those, but I want to know which ones make money and which ones just make me happy. So I want to know what type of webinars generate the most traffic, not only for new subscribers to the newsletter, but potential purchasers of the product, and actually resolve into buying a product from me at some point down the line, be that joining my community as a Patreon supporter or purchasing one of my information products. Because at the end of the day, I still have to figure out how to make this work as a business. And I also want to know what activities I do that are drawing people in the community that are just watching more videos and just kind of contributing to the community itself. Both are valuable, but I have to know which ones are generating revenue versus which ones are just generating community. And then I have to decide what balance I want to attach in order to keep my venture moving ahead in a profitable and controllable manner. So that's the intelligence that I'm hoping to get from a tool like Infusionsoft. Now, stick around on the channel, because I'm going to actually be recording a lot of my enrollment process of setting it up and talking through the process, because I know it's such a confusing tool. And it's not that Infusionsoft is confusing. It's that getting your head around what a CRM can do for you, especially for people that are into information marketing, what we can apply and where it can fit for us. It's not self-evident necessarily. You get ideas, you kind of have rumors of things that might help you. I'm going to try and make them concrete and try and make them easily to understand. That's one of the goals that I have moving ahead this year. And that's really it. I need to thank everybody who's been participating in this. Forgive me for being, a little bit of pat on the back through this entire episode today. But we've worked hard to reach this point of 50,000 subscribers, excuse me. And I'm proud of that fact. I'm proud of the community that we're building. I'm proud of the fact that you are taking the time to engage, ask me questions, give me value back. And I do feel that real sense of community that's grown out of this. And that is something that is so unique and so different from my days in the broadcast television world when I had an audience, but I did not know who my community was. I didn't have a community, but I just had an audience. I prefer having a community, and I hope you enjoy being part of my community. So with that, I'm just going to say thanks so much. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, please subscribe to the channel, sign up for our newsletter, and of course, I've talked a little bit about Patreon. If you are intrigued by that, please click on the link, take a look at Patreon, see if it's something that you might want to participate in. But really, the big overall message today is thank you for your support. Thank you for your encouragement. I appreciate both. I am Steve Dotto. Until next time, have fun storming a castle.